Welcome to week 2 public speaking go-to meeting. I am Rebecca Lane. I'm one of your public speaking instructors here with Full Sail Online, and we're going to get started. So first, I'm going to pull this up. Now, this should work. There we go. Excellent. We're going to look over week 2. Now, this is a picture of the old Full Sail Online. I have not updated my screenshot yet, but we're still doing that week 2 go-to training, so the information is still accurate. You should have all received an announcement, either from me or Jeff or Alex, Miss Reister, giving you a week 2 work plan. Has everybody received their week 2 work plan? Okay, I'm seeing a whole bunch of yeses. That is excellent. Yeppers, Daniel, I like this. We're adding some variety to our responses. Amazing. Cool. So I've got this week 2 work plan. We have a lot of stuff happening this week, and we're going to talk through that. The very first thing that you are going to have due really soon is the narrative presentation. Has everybody opened up the narrative presentation assignment? Oh boy, I'm seeing some no's. This is a problem, guys. So this narrative presentation, it's due really soon, and it takes a couple of days to complete, honestly. So let's see. So what you're going to do is, in step 1, we've got some preparation activities. Hey, Julian, I'm sorry, it's an online class. You should plan to devote about 20 hours a week to this class. So what we've got is preparation activities, and step number 1 is find a joke in the form of a story. So when we're looking at story jokes, you're looking at jokes that are a little bit longer. We're not looking for knock-knock jokes. Daniel, you always get awkward pauses after you tell a joke. Me too. So an example of a story joke, I've got this joke that I tell. I learned it, probably in middle school. I love it. Once upon a, and here's the problem, is that it's a little bit of a visual joke, but I'll do my best. So once upon a time, there was a big mouth frog. And the big mouth frog, he was walking down the road, and he sees a cow, and he goes to the cow, and he's like, "Hi, I'm the big mouth frog. What do you feed your babies?" And he speaks with a really big mouth. And the cow's a little bit confused. And the cow goes, "Well, I feed my babies milk." And the big mouth frog goes, "That is fantastic." And he just hops on down the road, and he comes across a bird, and he talks to the bird, and he's like, "Hi, I'm the big mouth frog. What do you feed your babies?" And the bird's like, "Well, I feed my babies worms." And the big mouth frog, "That is just lovely. I love that." And he hops on down the road. And the big mouth frog comes across an alligator. And he is just friendly as ever. And he says, "Hi, I'm the big mouth frog. What do you feed your babies?" And the alligator smiles and says, "Well, I feed my babies big mouth frogs." And the big mouth frog goes, "Oh," with a very tiny mouth. "Well, that's just fantastic. See you later." And he hops on down the road. So that is an example of a story joke. It doesn't have to be profound. Just find something that you think is fun. So what you're going to do is you're going to find something that has been already written out by somebody else in somebody else's words. So like if you go into a joke book. When I was in 5th grade, I had a joke book. Some of them were inappropriate for 5th graders. And I would go through that book and I'd learn some jokes. So that's kind of what I'm asking you to do. You don't need to have an actual physical joke book. There are plenty of jokes online. There are some links that are even available to you guys. You can look at them. So step number 1, just record yourself reading that joke from notes. So you're not going to use your own words. You're going to use somebody else's words. Step number 2, you learn the joke. So if you're looking at number 3, it says in orange, learn the joke. And what we are asking you to do is to not learn it verbatim. The best way to do this is go ahead and outline the joke. What are the plot points that need to happen? What are what are the plot points that need to happen? And then try to tell it to some people. Like actually test the joke out on people. Have you ever tried to tell a joke to somebody and what happens the very first time you tell a joke? A brand new joke. Anybody? Julian, Daniel, Greg? Oh, people are horrified? What kind of jokes are you telling, Daniel? Greg, blank stares. Anthony, you're a comedian. That's excellent. Brandon, you too. Awesome. Well, I know the first time I tell jokes, usually it falls a little bit off. But then if I tell it a couple of times, I kind of figure out my own words, and eventually I figure out when the punchline's actually supposed to happen. Hopefully I start to remember the punchline. And so it takes a little bit of practice. So what we are asking you to do is go through that process of figuring out how a joke can be funny in your own words. So if your video 2 is exactly the same verbatim as your video 1, you've probably not done the assignment correctly. There should be about a day in between. So if you haven't started this already, go find a joke tonight, record it really fast, do it fast, and then spend the day learning it. Yes, Anthony Bueller? So make sure you're doing that. Okay, after that, you're going to watch both of your videos, and you're going to compare and contrast. So what's the same, what's different? Think about telling that joke to the other person. How were you interacting with them? Because even when we're the only ones talking, we've got that communication circle, right? They're giving us nonverbals that we're responding to and stuff like that. So really start to think about that. And so that is your reflection. And then finally, you've got this written response post. You're going to watch somebody else's joke. You know, first and last video, right? And then notice what's the difference from recording to recording. So any questions on the narrative presentation? And you guys out in chat world, you guys, if you have any questions, go ahead and ask them, because I'm pretty sure that the folks who watch the archive video will have similar questions. Brandon, everything's clear? Fantastic. David, you think it's pretty straightforward? Awesome. Cool. How many of you guys are going to start on this tonight? David, it's like you're singing. Me, me, me. Like it. Amazing. Cool. So we're going to move forward. Now I'm going to talk a little bit about this industry presentation assignment. So, industry presentation. This is your, it's a pretty big speech. And it's basically, you're going to teach us about something in your personal industry. Okay, so step 1, your preparation activities. Start to think about your industry and really think about something that you could teach us from your industry. Now, when I'm talking to people about this, one of the things that you need to think about is, remember that this is a let's see, how long is it? Let's double check. It's 3 to 5 minutes, right? You look up at the length. This is a 3 to 5 minute speech. Thanks, Julian. I like it. So it's a 3 to 5 minute speech. It's 10% of your grade. If your topic is something that we could take a 5-week course in, it is too broad a topic. So when you are selecting your topic, make sure that it is really specific. So, like for example, one person was going to talk about computer animation, and we narrowed it down to from the animation process all the way down to something as very specific as the walk cycle. So creating a walk cycle in a character. So really focusing that down, because you only have 3 to 5 minutes. And remember, we're starting out with this narrative speech, right? We're not having you do this narrative speech because we want you to do narrative and then forget about it. We want you to do narrative because we are doing this process of using a fact and then pairing it with a story, and then adding in another fact, and then adding in another story. So we're alternating fact, story, fact, story. If you list steps and if you list facts, you've not quite done this assignment right. So really make sure that you are adding in moments of personal story, moments of relevance, along with your facts. Okay, great. So also, make sure that you take a look at your industry presentation outline feedback. Your instructors, and in my class, you have not gotten your feedback yet. You will be getting that within the next day or so. Jeff's class, I'm pretty sure you guys have that back already because Jeff is absolutely on top of his game. And Alex's class, you probably do also. But really make sure that you are working that feedback into your presentation. Your instructors are expecting to see adjustments. Make sure it's 3 to 5 minutes. Make sure you also include feedback from your welcome video, right? So feedback on your setup, feedback on your presentation, stuff like that. You've got a lot of feedback that you get to incorporate. Make sure that you practice. Also, remember, there is an opportunity for extra credit in this presentation. You have an opportunity for extra credit. All you have to do is record in front of people. Now, Jeff may like something different. I know that when people include audience members for my presentations, what I really love to see is I like to see the computer sitting back beside the audience members. I like to see the computer sitting back with the audience members, and I like the speaker to treat the computer as one extra set of eyeballs. So instead of, like with a lot of these, we end up sitting down at our table and we look directly at our computer. If you have an audience, go ahead and move the computer way back, and if it makes your setup a little less professional, like if we can actually see your living space, that is okay, because I personally prefer seeing you standing up and actually making eye contact with people and interacting with people. I prefer that to maybe seeing that you have a couch behind you. You know what I mean? Okay, so one final thing, whenever you're uploading videos, if the new FSO platform, you should be able to upload videos directly to it, so this shouldn't be a problem. But if you do decide to use YouTube, and you are welcome to use YouTube as a backup, make sure you do not set your video to private. Different instructors handle it differently, but when students submit video links to me and their videos are set to private, I count it as late and I don't take it. So please, please, please double check your privacy setting. Daniel says something. He says, my topic definitely has books written about it. Carries a lot of weight in the industry. Okay, Daniel, if your topic has books written about it, you're going to want to think about finding a chapter or even a subheading within a chapter, Daniel. And that is going to help you narrow that down. So just something tiny, tiny, tiny. Daniel, you narrowed it down a ton. I love it. Amazing. Okay, so are there any other questions about the informative presentation, the industry presentation? Any other questions? I've got 9 of you folks here. Great. Excellent. All right, so we're going to move forward. So I want to talk to you a little bit about a working outline versus a speaking outline. There are 2 types of outlines. Does anybody know what the difference is? Working outline versus speaking outline? The textbook tells you if you've been reading it. David says the speaking outline is shorter. Yes, that is one component. The speaking outline is shorter. What do you mean, David, when you say the speaking outline is shorter? Yep, it just highlights the key points. Great. Okay, so Daniel says the speaking outline directly reflects the speech. Daniel, both outlines should actually directly reflect the speech. But you guys are right. So the speaking outline goes into a little bit less detail. The working outline, you're going to be writing a little bit more information. Think about the working outline is somewhere between writing the speech out verbatim and just writing out the headings, okay? So the working outline is that happy medium. So we are never going to ask you to write your speech out verbatim. We're not going to do it. We don't want you to. But we will ask you to do a working outline, and that's basically, figuring out what words you might want to use, and we're never expecting you to say something verbatim, but really writing out full sentences, full concepts, stuff like that. So here is an example of a working outline. And so this is an outline from a different class, but the concept is similar. So one of the things that I want you to notice, before we even get into the outline, do you see at the top, it says beginning and then it says slide 1, hook, attention grabber. One of the things with this outline is this speaker has chosen to note what slides correspond with the information that they are planning to say. This is an excellent tactic. We have not included this in your outline worksheet, but it's something that I really recommend you guys start to do. Really start to decide which slides go with which information. Okay, so next we've got this the rest of what is written here. And what we're looking for, see this contrast between the information that's in black and the information that is in blue. So the information that is in black, that's important because those are the titles of what you're going for. Your speaking outline worksheet is going to have these things, right? It's going to have the titles. It's got the thesis labeled, the connect with audience labeled, stuff like that. So do you see how these are in full sentences? We've got the story about 2 back-to-back negative experiences using Facebook. Great. That's a full sentence. It's a complete idea. Going all the way to slide number 3, where it says the big idea. So this big idea in this outline is the equivalent of a thesis. So this one says Facebook's impact on our lives is more negative than positive. So that's got the angle of the presentation. And if you notice, it happens pretty early on in this speech. So one of the things that I hope you are noticing is we've got full sentences, but they're using really precise language. So if you look in the textbook, you'll see that they are using concrete language. Look that up if you have not. It's a really excellent concept, and I think it's going to help you. Think about concrete language, and think about using vivid language. Think about using concise language. All of these things. Not using more words than you have to, but being really specific. So this is an example of a working outline. This is what you should have already turned in. Moving forward, we want to talk about creating a speaking outline. So you should have already turned in your working outline. Now you're going to create a speaking outline. And if you want, you can actually post this with your assignment on FSO, on the discussion board. And what you're doing here is you're really thinking index cards. So if you were to glance at this out of the corner of your eye and you needed it to be helpful, how much could you actually put on this? Think about stuff that you might even transfer to an index card. In fact, if you want to use index cards in your presentations in this class, that is an excellent idea. Index cards are amazing. I love it when my students use index cards because what it usually means is they are not reading their screen, so we don't have any of that fuzzy, maybe I'm looking at the computer screen, maybe I'm looking at the camera. We don't have any of that, and it's all really obvious. I'm looking at my cards. I'm looking at you guys. So that's what we're looking for with a speaking outline. And now, what you want to make sure is you're doing some presentation research. Now, when you're looking at presentation research, we are hoping that you will continue to use the library research databases. We love the library research databases. If you are on the library webpage, right here on Connect, what you'll want to do is you'll want to go to the research databases. So if you see down on the right of the screen, you've got the bookmarks that the library has available. Does everybody see those? Excellent. Thanks, David. It says research databases. So what you'll do is you'll click on research databases. And when you go in there, I recommend using EBSCOhost or LexisNexis. And there's a lot of really excellent information. And the reason we encourage you to use the research databases is A, it's online, so it's easy. And B, especially if you're using LexisNexis. LexisNexis has access to a lot of periodicals that you would not otherwise have access to, like the New York Times or even some of your industry glossies, right? So like Wired Magazine or other magazines like that that are professional, that go through an editor, but that are a little bit more pop culture, a little more fresh. And if you're having trouble, go ahead and call a librarian. I call the librarians all the time, and they help me out, and they love finding information. So really take advantage of that. I mean, you're paying their salaries. You're paying for them to help you. So I recommend you do it. Okay, so once you have done your research with the library databases, you are going to have research. And hopefully you have put that research into your speech, which means you are going to have to cite that information. So anytime you have information that is not from your own brain and your own personal experience, that you did not research and discover yourself, you have to tell us where you got it. Think of it as like a really big information collage. So if you learned, and there's that fine line between common knowledge and what has been researched, right? And so you can figure that out on your own, or ask your instructor if you are unsure. Please ask me or Jeff or Alex. Ask us what might need to be cited. But if you notice in the outline worksheet, we are asking you to have one resource per main point. So you should have one verbal citation per main point. So you want to make sure that you are citing them out loud. Does anybody have an idea of what kind of information we should include when we are citing things out loud? Daniel is saying the author. Yes, Daniel, you probably want to include the author. What else? Okay, David, I'm seeing name and year it was published. Yes, name and year something was published. What else? Brandon, you're offering the page and the title. Page if it's a direct quote. Title of an article, David. Okay, you guys, you totally, clearly have experience, and the date, Gerald, I love this. So you guys totally have experience citing things. And a lot of the stuff that I'm seeing, you say like with page and date and stuff like that, well, page number in particular, we don't necessarily want to be, this isn't the same as a research paper, right? This is a speech for which we have done research. So if you guys went to a website, what's a website you guys regularly go to? Okay, so Greg, you go to IGN.com. So IGN.com, or David, you go to Digital Tutors. All right, so David, if you were going to go to Tutors, oh, great. So David, if you're going to go to Digital Tutors, and you were talking to a friend about it, what is a sentence that you might say? Like if you were saying you got some information from that website and you were having a conversation, how might you say where you got it? I might not have made sense. That's okay. I know that sometimes I like to watch... Ooh, great, David, you came through. I found this online on the Digital Tutor site under this area or something to that effect. Yeah, great, David. Exactly. So you found this online. This is the site. You found it in this area. Yeah. So whenever we're citing things, like sometimes I like to watch The Daily Show. Does anybody watch The Daily Show? So when I watch The Daily Show, I like to tell my friends, I like to talk to my friends about it. Does anybody talk to their friends about stuff that they watch either on TV or on the internet or stuff like that? Game of Thrones? Yes, absolutely Game of Thrones. Okay, so sure. And so, Game of Thrones has aired recently. Has anybody watched the most recent episode of Game of Thrones? I'm seeing nope. Impractical Jokers, Tyrion, sad. Don't have a TV, Julian. That's okay. That's okay. So, what you might say is, hey, did you watch the Game of Thrones episode last night? So that, really simply, is a source citation, right? So, what is the publication that I am citing? Well, great. HBO is the station. That's the corporation that I'm citing. They are the publishers. But what's the publication? Game of Thrones. Absolutely, Greg. Thanks. So publication, I'm using that word in a really broad sense, right? So the TV show, Game of Thrones, and when was it published? Okay, it published 2014, but the one that I just referenced. Hey, did you watch Game of Thrones last night? Whatever night it airs. Awesome. So, and so I have a really specific reference. Yeah, last night. So, it's a little bit more abstract, but if I know that Game of Thrones aired last night, and it aired fresh, it was a brand new episode last night, so what we've got is we've got the publication, and we've got the time that it was released, and it was really conversational. Now, can you do that for everything that you cite? No, because everything is not a freshly aired television show, right? But we can continue this kind of a thing. Now, all of these sources that you do reference must be listed in your references section, and we use APA source citation, so you do want to make sure that you are familiar with APA source citation. And one of the things that you need to be aware of is you've got the hanging tabs. So if you see on the slide, you've got Anderson is not indented, and then health promotion, checkups, DOI, those are all indented, right? You see those? Okay, so really pay attention to how this is formatted, even though you're going to be on FSO, and even though you're working in a discussion forum, we do expect the proper format. So if you're looking at this, yes, the Purdue OWL is an excellent source. Hanging indents are tough. I know, Daniel. Brandon, you always screenshot it. That's amazing. Awesome. I love it. So you've got last name, first initial, we've got parentheses. In the parentheses, it's a date. There's a period after that. You've got the title of the article, and it's not italicized. There's a period after that. You've got the title of the publication, the journal, italicized, health communication. Okay, so you see, all of this information is right here. This is the kind of source citation we expect you to put together. So if you are on a website and you cannot find who wrote it, and you do not know what organization it is from, do you think it is a good source for you to use for your speech? David and Anthony, you have read my mind. No, do not. Okay, Daniel has a really excellent question. He says, how do you cite something like Autodesk Maya Manual? Cannot find the author. Okay, so that's a really excellent point. Manuals are usually published by a corporation, so you would cite the corporation usually as the author. And that's one of those things where you can kind of snoop around Purdue OWL and they will help you. So, or you can also call a librarian, because librarians are magical and they know really good things. But usually you can find the proper format by snooping around the Purdue OWL. Okay? So good questions. So moving forward, we're going to practice citing things. So we've got this article here, and we need to cite it. So we've talked about the things that we might include in a source citation. Who would like to unmute their mic? I'm going to ask somebody to unmute your mic and try to cite this in a conversational way. So one of the things that I'm going to ask you to do is pick a fact that you see here. So we can read this, right? So you've got ask anybody who manages a business. They will tell you how important it is to hire the right people. Okay, so we've got this little tiny bit of information. What I want you to do is choose a little tiny bit of information and cite it. Daniel, you're going to give it a shot. I love that. All right, unmute your mic and go.
I read this article the other day, We Need to Change How We Think About Talent by Greg Sattel. He said, unfortunately, it seems that even the best firms are facing a widening skills gap, and it will only get worse. And it was around the second paragraph. Pretty good article.
Awesome. That was amazing. Thanks, Daniel. Great. So, everybody else, what are the 2 things that he decided to give us for that source citation? David, he gave us the title, absolutely. Brandon, he noted that we were talking about the second paragraph and the author. Awesome. So, David, you did something that is really excellent that I hadn't even gotten to yet. One of the things that we want to think about is we want to think about giving people an intersection point. So we're going to give them, think about helping them triangulate the information, right? So we give them the actual information, the quote or the stuff that we got from the source, and then we give them 2 other things that will help them find it later. So if I know that somebody was talking about bananas, and that somebody was George Bush, and that it was in March 2005, then I could probably Google that, and I could probably find the article. You know what I mean? So we want to try to include 2 touch points so that people really know what this is coming from. Now, one of the things that would have made this even awesomer is if you had really called our attention to the fact that the "we need to change how we think about talent" was the name of an article. Okay? So there are some other ways, there's some other stuff we could use to cite this. Who else would like to try citing things out loud? And I will wait. Let's see, I can see who's actually listening. I've got 9 people. Julian, you've clicked out of our box. Are you listening to us, Julian? Are you there?
Yeah, I'm here. Have I been volunteered by the Orbitwall?
You've been volunteered.
Should be you.
Yep.
Okay. So, you guys, I was checking out this crazy article about how jobs are like going crazy. It was by a guy named Greg Sittel, I think. And the article you need to check out is "We Need to Change How We Think About Talent." I think Forbes.com had something about it. I'll give you a link later. Just hit me up about it.
Okay, Julian, great. I like that you finally you got in the Forbes.com. So you started out with the title, and you started out with Greg Sittel, and that was great, and that was actually what we had before. And then you added in the Forbes.com. I loved that you added in the Forbes.com. Thank you. All right. So we've got a little bit of practice citing sources. And I know I'm being a little bit goofy about it, but once you get into your speech, I often see that people forget. And it really bums me out to take off points when it was something that everybody had planned on doing and then they just forgot. So please, just be very conscientious about it. So when we're looking at this, remember, you can cite the website, you can cite the article, you can cite the article title, you could even cite when this was published. So it's an article published on Forbes.com on January 1st, 2014. We could include that. And here's our goal. Just like we were just doing, you want to make it natural. You want to make it conversational. By natural, what we really mean is try to make it feel like you're talking to us. So with all of these speeches, if you'll notice, like right now, sometimes I stutter. I do. And that is okay. If you stutter a little bit in your speech, it's okay. We're not looking for perfection. We're looking for charisma. We're looking for good information. We're looking for well thought out concepts. We're looking to see that you have practiced, right? But we're not looking for something to be verbatim perfect, because that doesn't matter as much. So great. Our goal is to make this as conversational as possible. So I want to talk just a little bit about speech delivery. Do you guys have any questions about speech delivery before we go there? Hey, Daniel, we'll miss you. Come back soon. All right, Brandon and Anthony, you guys are all straight on speech delivery. Cool. Okay, so I'm going to talk a little bit, and then we'll move forward. All right, David, you've read the assignment material? Great. So the thing with speech delivery is our goal is for it to be conversational. And that is so darn easy to say, right? So conversational, what does that mean? How is it possible to be conversational when I am talking to a computer screen and I can't see faces and I'm alone in my bedroom? How is that even possible, right? And so what you will end up doing, every tip that we give you, really works towards simulating natural conversational delivery in an unnatural environment, right? So how do we create that feeling of spontaneous, interactive talking with a presentation that is A, rehearsed, please rehearse it, right? And that is B, structured content. And that is C, right now I'm not talking to any faces, so I can't see anybody even responding to me. And Brandon, yeah, you're talking about your speech memorized. So Brandon, that's the very first thing. We don't want our speech to be memorized. We do not want you to memorize your speech. Let's go all the way back. I can even flip all the way back, right? We can go all the way back and look at that working outline. And then think about the speaking outline with the index cards. You want to, and think about all the way back to the narrative presentation that you guys are going to be doing. Ideally, you will learn the content in your speech the way you might learn a joke. Right? So we're not trying to be perfect. We just want to get the point across, right? So if you tell a joke, do you tell it verbatim perfect every time? Anybody? Do you tell jokes or stories, personal stories? No fun in that. You're right, Greg. And Daniel, you're back. I love it. Excellent. Okay. So you may not tell things verbatim perfect the same way every time, and that's normal, right? That's conversation. And so when you're delivering your speech, try to speak from an outline. Like right now, I am speaking to you guys from an outline. Nobody else is ever going to get this exact presentation ever again. And you might be thinking in your brain, that is lucky for them. And you might not. I don't know. But we want to be thinking about making things natural. So what is natural? What does that mean? Well, the very first thing that I recommend you do is breathe. And I know that sounds dorky, because if you don't breathe, then you don't live, right? Yeah, David, and you're talking about not speaking in monotone. Yeah, not speaking in monotone, but even before that, breathe. Everybody right now, take a really deep breath all together. 1, 2, 3. Okay, so if you took that really deep breath, what happens to your body? What do you have to do in order to take that really deep breath? David, you have to relax. Absolutely. Okay, so what is the very first thing your body does when you start to get angsty? Okay, but David says your body tenses up. That's right. So if I'm starting to get angsty, maybe I'm frustrated because I've been practicing my speech all night and it's still not perfect, or maybe I'm just really tired, or maybe I'm a little bit nervous because speaking is uncomfortable. Like, lots of reasons to tense up, right? Because, it's school and these are assignments. The first thing you want to do is take a breath. Take a really deep breath. And remember to breathe as you speak. Like, if you notice right now, I start to get a little tense. I do. And so then I take a breath. And then I remember to calm down. And you guys can do exactly the same thing. So, breathing is excellent. After you're breathing, you want to make sure that you are looking at the camera. So step number 1, breathe, and breathe often. Give us pauses, stuff like that. Step number 2, actually look at the camera. We're looking for like 95% of the time eyeballs looking at the camera. Now, does that mean you have to stare the camera down? No, you can look at your notes. You can look off to think. We can do all of these things, right? But you want to make sure. Creepy stalker look. Greg, I am not talking about creepy stalker look. I am talking about looking at the camera. Now, if you were talking to a whole bunch of people, you would be spreading your eye contact out between different eyeballs, right? So if you want to, it might be easier for you to go ahead and have an audience, right? Because then you can actually spread your eye contact out in a way that might feel a lot more natural. But if you are not able to do that, make sure that you look at the camera 95% of the time. And that's what we're looking for. One of the things that'll help you do that, if you have smaller eyes, if your eyes tend to look more closed, any of those things, put your camera above eye level. And that's going to open up your eyes. It's also going to put some light in your eyes. It's going to help us see that. You could also open up your eyelids with toothpicks, Gregory. That is an option. It doesn't sound like a very comfortable option, though. I mean, to each his own. But if it gets in the way of your pupils, I'm going to have a problem with it. Okay, so we want to look at the camera. You want to remember to breathe. And after that, you want to try to put in some pitch variation. You want to try to put in some pacing variation. One of the things that starts to make things sound monotone, because we call a lot of things monotone, but one of the things that I've learned is that when people have the same pace, it starts to sound monotone even if they have different pitches involved. So natural conversation has a bit of an ebb and flow. Sometimes we speed up, sometimes we slow down. And that is what makes conversation feel like you're responding to somebody, right? So speech delivery, keep continuing to work to find something that feels like conversation. A really great way to find something that feels like conversation is to actually talk to human beings. So practicing your speech to people, just like we're asking you to practice your narrative presentation, that little tiny joke, to people. The same thing helps with an informative speech. Okay, so what we're going to do right now is we're going to try to watch a video together. This is a video of Benjamin Zander. And we've talked a little bit about delivery. I want you guys to tell me what you think he is doing well, what you think he could do better, and we're going to talk specifically about delivery. So let's watch this. So just while we're doing that, are you guys able to see that, hear that? Gregory said, ouch, so something is going on. Yep. All right, so we're going to start that over.
Probably a lot of you know the story of the two salesmen who went down to Africa in the 1900s. They were sent down to find if there was any opportunity for selling shoes. And they wrote telegrams back to Manchester. And one of them wrote, "Situation hopeless, stop, they don't wear shoes." And the other one wrote, "Glorious opportunity, they don't have any shoes yet." Now, there's a similar situation in the classical music world, because there are some people who think that classical music is dying, and there are some of us who think you ain't seen nothing yet. And rather than go into statistics and trends and tell you about all the orchestras that are closing and the record companies that are folding, I thought we should do an experiment tonight. An experiment.
All right, so we've got this video of Benjamin Zander. What did you guys notice about his delivery? And you guys, you don't have to do everything in the chat box, right? You can unmute yourself, you can talk. All right, Daniel, notice he starts with a joke. He put one hand in his pocket, he did. Brandon liked the joke, excellent. Greg, you say lots of movement. What kind of movement, Greg? Anthony, you're saying he's very animated. David noticed his hand gestures. Ooh, Daniel, nice. He let us know what he intended to talk about. Yes, he did. What else? Did you guys think that he was engaging, or did you think he was not engaging? Okay, so Daniel says that he thought he was engaging. So what made him engaging? What did he do that made you want to watch him?
He came out from behind the podium and got kind of like up to the audience and just really started out with a fast pace. And then once the joke was over, he started slowing down and getting into the points like he wasn't going to share all the statistics, but he was going to share stories.
Very cool. So you said a lot in that. So first, you said that he was speeding up for the joke and then he slowed down for the information. I liked that. So that's something that I would call ebb and flow. He found some places to speed up, he found some places to slow down, and we do that in conversation. Excellent. The other thing that you said, and I forgot it. Can you say it one more time?
He came out from behind the podium and he got up to the audience, and then that's where he started with the joke, really just getting there, hitting the points, and then he slowed down whenever he started talking about the what he was not going to talk about. He was not going to talk about statistics, but he was going to share stories.
Great. Okay, so first we've got statistics versus story. He's telling us that he's going to share stories. So if you see, and this is for everybody, if you guys see a speaker and they say, I am going to read you a lot of statistics, or the speaker says, today I'm going to share a story, which one sounds like it's going to be more interesting to listen to? All right, so we've got this automatic feeling that statistics are boring. Stories are way more fun. Now, I like statistics, but if I thought that somebody was going to list facts and statistics for 45 minutes, I'd probably pick another speech. So here's the thing, when you're giving your informative presentation, this industry presentation, do not make it a list of facts. Ah, David, yes, if you tell a story that includes statistics, it's really not as bad. Right, so that goes back to the alternating fact and story, fact and story. And if you go back and you watch more of that presentation, that is actually what Benjamin Zander does, is he alternates fact and story. I recommend look it up on TED. You will love his presentation. So one of the other things that I heard you say is that he came out from behind the podium. He came out from behind the podium. What is the effect of that?
Personability and likeness and more of a connection to his audience by not only disengaging himself from his stationary position, but also moving himself more towards their personal area. And while he was opening his hands, making more open gestures with his fingers, it's almost like he's capturing every little bit that they have and bringing it more towards himself, and opening himself up to them as well.
Amazing. So he's got open body language, first of all. He doesn't have a barrier between him and us. A lot of times, podiums are a barrier, right? And so, like, when people feel uncomfortable, we often close off our bodies. We cover up our soft bits, right? So if I'm feeling uncomfortable, I'm probably going to cross my arms in front of me. That kind of protects our belly, right? Our soft insides. So, but when I'm feeling really comfortable, like when I'm talking to friends that I really trust and love, all of a sudden, I'm not protecting any soft parts because I trust them. And so as a speaker, it's our job to show our audience that we trust them. And if I trust you, you are way more likely to trust me, because usually that trust means that I like you. I trust you, I like you. It's safe for you to like me. And so these are some of these nonverbals that we want to make sure we are giving off. Great. So he also was using these wonderful hand gestures. Now, some of you guys, when you frame yourselves in these presentations, I see you film yourself from like the very, very top of your shoulders up to the top of your head. We need hand gestures. One of the beautiful things that Benjamin Alexander does is he uses his hands. And you have the ability to do that in these presentations, and we expect you to use that. Because it is part of our expressive ability. So that's a little bit about presentation. Remember that we have an opportunity for extra credit. Don't forget to do that. And remember that you do need to do a QuickTime video response. So like right now, I am doing a QuickTime video of this presentation. If you go into QuickTime, you will see up in File, you will select a new screen recording. When you select new screen recording, you'll have the opportunity to, let's see, I can show you what it looks like, I think. No, I can't. So we've got this new screen recording. Go ahead and select that. Make sure that you can see the mic thing moving, the sound receptor. It'll indicate that it's picking up sound, and that's what you need. If it's not, you just open up another window and it will give you an option to include sound. And make sure you do that screen recording. And then you're going to upload that video recording to either FSO or to YouTube, and then you'll post the link on FSO. Oh, and my computer is running out of battery, but luckily we are almost done. So we've got this QuickTime video response post. Make sure that you do that. And it's going to be due on Friday, just like the notes here say. It's going to be due on Friday along with your presentation. So the same due date is for everything. Everything is due on the same date. Daniel makes a really good point. Totally make sure you choose your mic from the options or you will lose all audio. That is absolutely correct, Daniel. So really make sure you've got the correct mic selected. Really pay careful attention to the to-do list that we sent out, the week 2 work plan. It will keep you on track. Make sure you keep track of your calendar. And really make sure you're studying for that week 1-2 quiz. You've got a quiz. Do not forget to do it. Some of it's multiple choice and some of it is short answers, so be ready for those short answers. All right. So we are almost done. Does anybody have any questions? Questions for what you should...
Can you go over the parameters for turn-in on...
Oh, yeah. Keep talking.
I'm sorry, you were talking?
That, I didn't need to say what I was saying. You talk.
Okay. Can you briefly go over the parameters for turn-in and exactly what you're asking for the extra credit again? I think I missed something along the way. We need to do a recorded response in front of people, but what exactly are we recording?
Okay. So here...
Or is this going to be just rewatch it type of thing?
I don't know if it's a rewatch it or not. So here's what we've got. The extra credit is tied directly
Slide
to...
number 4.
No, it's not going to do that. Okay, the extra credit is tied directly to the informative industry presentation. So you're going to give an informative speech. All the assignment requires is that you speak to your camera on your computer. However, if you would like to get extra credit, we invite you to collect 3 to 5 people and actually talk to those people. So you're going to be giving the same speech, the same informative presentation, but instead of just talking to your camera, you're going to talk to your camera as one set of eyeballs, and you will also be making eye contact with the other people in the room. Does that answer your question? Excellent, Julian. Thank you. Any other questions? Yep, Daniel, I am down to 7%. Oop, down to 6. You're correct. Any other questions, guys? Okay, David, you're good. Excellent. Julian, you're sleepy. Greg, you're good for now. Anthony, you're pretty cool. All right. So if you guys have questions, feel free. You guys can call me. You can email me. My email is rlane@fullsail.com. You are welcome to contact me. You are also welcome to contact Alex Reister. Alex Reister is our course director, and she is fabulous. Her email is areister, R-I-S-T-E-R, fullsail.com, and you can also contact Jeff, who is equally amazing. He is J is in John, Melton, Melton, at fullsail.com. We are all willing to talk to you, happy to talk to you. If you want to talk to me, I actually recommend calling my Google Voice number, and I'll pull that up for you guys, because I do not magically remember it on my own. But I'm on my email a lot. I am available at my cell phone even more. And my Google Voice number goes directly to my phone. All I ask is that you guys use discretion with that. If it is midnight, don't call me. Unless it is like immediately after this presentation and you would like to chat. But really, in general, I'm asleep at this time. So use common sense, but common sense aside, feel free to call me if you have questions. I like helping people out. Let's see. Okay, here we go. This is my Google Voice number. It's 407-476-5291. 407-476-5291. That's the best way to reach me. All right. So, folks, if you have any questions, feel free to let me know. But otherwise, have a fantastic evening.